Scott just made the point yesterday. You'll read to be a lot more secure, not just in our
The primary season is finally heating up, and all the land is abuzz with talk of America's first female president. By all the land, I of course mean the media and power brokers of the Democratic National Committee. To hear them tell the story, Mrs. Bubba is the only woman running for president. As many Americans are finally finding out, however, the Republicans have a woman who has actually accomplished something in the race, and her name is Carly Fiorina. Before we go any further, I'd like to make a little disclaimer here. The emotions are running very high this year, and I found that if I say anything nice at all about one of the 682 Republican candidates, I'm immediately accused of being in the tank for that candidate. I haven't picked one yet. We're merely having a conversation because this is Trifecta, the conversation place. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. I'm Stephen Kruiser, and I'm filling in for Stephen Green this week. Let us now welcome your two Trifecta regulars, Scott Ott and Bill Whittle. Gentlemen, last week, Carly Fiorina was handed some lemons and made gallons of lemonade out of them when she managed to be the talk of both debates, despite being relegated to the one that aired at 2 in the afternoon here on the West Coast and had almost no live audience. She was prepared and polished on every topic. In fact, during this under-the-radar campaign she's been running, almost all of her media appearances have been fantastic, which is quite refreshing given what the GOP has had to deal with for the past couple of elections. Until almost being forced to respond to the controversy about Donald Trump this week and Megyn Kelly, Fiorina had been relentless in her focus on Hillary Clinton. So, Scott, I'll go to you first. Much like the other non-politician who is currently leading the polls, Fiorina doesn't speak in canned political sound bites and isn't afraid to hit the Democrats and the media hard. In fact, she recently said the Republicans need a candidate who will throw every punch in this election. Another thing she has in common with that frontrunner is that she's never held elective office. Is this interminably long primary season perhaps set up in Carly Fiorina's favor? If she makes it into the primetime debates, could she emerge as maybe a less bombastic alternative to Trump for those who are tired of the same old thing from the party?
Well, from the first video that I saw of Carly Fiorina, she was actually speaking at a really badly sort of handheld flip video little tape on YouTube where she was talking to a group of people in Iowa. And she gave a little speech, and then she took questions from the audience. And I was just struck by how relaxed and confident she was, at how in command of the facts, at how she had clearly thought through what she wanted to say so that she could say things in a compelling fashion. And she'd really kind of gone above, certainly above the kind of preparation that Donald Trump has put into his public appearances, where he just seems to be winging it. And she's just really in command of the whole situation. When she's interviewed by the media, she's running that show too. It is really impressive, and she does it in a gracious way. And so, I was fascinated, and I thought the more people see her, the more they're going to like her. Now, at a certain point, there is sort of a Laffer curve in politics that when you get to a certain point of popularity, everybody else starts to hammer on you viciously, and that hasn't really hit for Carly yet. It will soon.
I've noticed some of the Trumpians hitting back harder at her this week, as if, they're trying to be dismissive, but they're being dismissive a lot about her. I'm reminded of something that Eddie Murphy said about when he first became famous. People were acting like it was all handed to him. He said, no, the door opened a little bit, I stuck my foot in it, and then I kicked it open. That's kind of what Carly did the other day, I think. People like my mother who are political but don't pay attention to politics all the time. She called me the next day. She said, I had no idea who she was, and then I just wanted to find out more as soon as I saw her. So I like the fact that she's doing a lot with very little right now. Now, Bill, I don't like identity politics, neither do you. And without playing the game, the GOP has actually come up with a rather diverse field this cycle. Would the presence of Carly Fiorina anywhere on the ticket diffuse some of Hillary's bluster about being a powerful woman, or will Carly get hit with the gender traitor nonsense? And if the Republicans end up with a ticket that features a woman and, say, a Cuban American, will MSNBC have to be put on 24/7 suicide watch?
Well, from your lips to God's ears, first of all, on the second point, and let's not watch them too carefully. Let's, go out for a sandwich midnight or so, especially if it's raining. Look, I think Carly Fiorina is Donald Trump plus poise and character, right? She's Hillary Clinton plus competence and honesty. So she would make a superb president. I don't have any problem at all for her at the top of the ticket. Anybody who's been successful in the private sector knows how to run a big business, and the federal government's a $4 trillion business. We could do infinitely worse than that. In fact, we're doing much, much, much worse than that right now. However, I think she would be the ideal vice presidential candidate. And I just want to clarify this by saying if she is the top of the ticket, she has my enthusiastic vote. But the reason I say second position is simply because I would like to see somebody with a little more of the constitutional aspect. I'd like to see Ted Cruz and Carly Fiorina. I think it'd be a great ticket. Ted Cruz understands the Constitution. Ted Cruz lives and dies by the Constitution. Ted Cruz's father fled Cuba because of the Constitution. And of all the things we need in the country right now, Steve, we need economic sanity, which is Carly Fiorina's bag, and we need a return to the law, which is the horn that Ted Cruz has been blowing. The reason especially that I like her for a VP candidate is because traditionally, and I think this is sound policy, doesn't matter which party, the vice president is the attack dog, and the the presidential candidate gets to float above the fray and, and be clouded in his nimbus of glory. And so if you're really going to ask yourself who would be the most effective attack on Hillary Clinton, it would be Carly Fiorina, because she does in fact negate the women's angle because of this gender identity politics we find ourselves in. No one is going to be able to attack Hillary Clinton to the bone except for another woman and get away with it, because Hillary Clinton's going to just rally this as part of the war on women, but it's going to be tough to make the case that it's a war on women if the most effective incoming rounds are coming from a woman who's everything that Hillary Clinton wants to be and isn't.
Stephen, can I throw in something?
Yes.
I covered a bunch of presidential candidate speeches at Red State Gathering this past weekend and posted them to PJ Media. Of the 7 or 8, I forget how many speakers there were, but of all those stories, the one that was shared more times on Facebook by far than any of the others was the story I wrote on Carly Fiorina. I'm not sure it's because people were suddenly waking up to Carly Fiorina, or it's because of the headline that had Carly Fiorina say, "We need to be able to throw every punch." And I think she can do that uniquely in a way that none of the other candidates can. And people, at least on PJ Media and at Red State, really responded to it.
Well, although I haven't picked anyone yet, one thing I can guarantee that I believe wholeheartedly is that if it is a Cruz Fiorina ticket, every punch will in fact be thrown. There will be nothing held back there. It won't be a sparring session. It will be the rumble in the jungle, and it'll be fun to watch. Folks, I don't know who's going to end up winning this hot mess. The Republicans have a very talented field of candidates, and I'm willing to think outside the box for this election because I want a candidate who can beat Hillary Clinton, not an eHarmony date, okay? I don't care if the eventual nominee and I don't sync up on all 29 levels of compatibility or on every issue. I should note also here that I worked very hard against Carly Fiorina in the Republican primary in 2010 when she was running for Senate here in California. I thought she was horrible with the media back then and a lousy debater. And then every one of my friends who's seen her live this year has come away amazed and told me about it, and I was waiting to see for myself. She is one of maybe 4 Republicans in the last 20 years who can answer a question about abortion without tripping all over herself, and I find that very, very refreshing. She doesn't allow the media to manhandle her. That would have been a wonderful quality for the most recent Republican presidential nominee to have, don't you think? As I said at the top of the show, she didn't complain about her circumstances for the first debate. She took what she was given, came out swinging, and made something out of it. After almost 7 years of a president who whines about everything, I found that really, really refreshing and thought it would be a nice change of pace for this great land to have a leader like that. I'm not saying that Carly Fiorina is my candidate. I am saying that if we're going to have a primary season that lasts longer than most Hollywood marriages, let's not try to make up our minds at the very beginning of it. The GOP needed some new blood to run for this presidency, and it's finally got it. So let's enjoy that before the next round of Bush kids is old enough to run. I'd like to thank Scott Ott and Bill Whittle for letting me fill in today, and for everyone here at PJTV, I'm Stephen Kruiser, and we're very grateful that you joined us today.